next speaker is going to be Margaret, and she's originally from Ireland and currently lives in the Bay Area with her family. She works in the high-tech industry focused on artificial intelligence and is at the forefront on the technological transformations that are impacting our everyday lives. Margaret has a passion for community development, having completed her master's in political science, and is an advocate for equality of opportunity, equality of access, and output. Margaret's priorities are her family and cultivating meaningful relationships with intention and thoughtfulness.
Hi, Arcana. Is it turned over to me?
Yeah, it is.
Awesome, awesome. I wasn't too sure if there was more or if we wanted to get going. So, and if folks want to turn on cameras, that's great as well. I love interaction. And of course, because we're doing this virtually, it is so nice to see people's faces and to be able to interact with that as opposed to a blank screen. So I'm really pleased to join you all this morning. Shneha has done an amazing job putting together quite a comprehensive schedule, and there are just some fantastic speakers that are on these various sessions today. So I believe for all of you who are attending, it is a total treat to be able to meet with so many fantastic, fearless women and leaders and to learn about their experiences and so forth. So my session is talking about strategies in a tech career and for success. And I believe with this, it's always good to start with a little story around where I have come from and what I have done in my career and what has worked well for me. And then obviously what I observe in the environment that we're in today. So as per the intro, my background, I am originally from Ireland, and I spent many years, as I say, I was raised, educated, and paid some taxes, not all my taxes, because I emigrated at a certain point. And initially when I emigrated, I went to Canada, and I was over in Vancouver. And when I joined in Vancouver, and initially my intention was to be there for a year on a live work visa, but I fell into tech, and it was a whole new industry for me because prior to that, based out of my training and background, as you had heard, it was in political science. I was actually working in the community and development sector in Ireland, which has a very different, and I won't get into this in any detail because this is not what we're focused on this morning, but it has great roots that are grounded in a very different framing around social equity and so forth. And when I was there, I built and started a startup community development project in an area of underprivilege. And we spent a lot of time in the number of years that I was there building out an organization, building out community development and involvement. But one of the key learnings I had in my career was this was probably a little bit too much for me too early in my career. And I was becoming a very serious person too early in my career and in my life. And so I made the decision to go out and explore the world and to go get different experiences, which is something that I had always wanted to do. As I was growing up, I was always very curious around what was happening in other countries, what was happening around the world in general. You know, when I grew up in my family, we didn't travel much. You know, I grew up on a farm, so there was always a need on the farm to work. But we had a map of the world in our kitchen. And what my parents did was we had relatives who were around the world who would come, and they always made sure that they sat and they talked to us. And we heard stories about living in America, in San Francisco or in Boston or being in Australia and what all these things were. So from a very early age, I was incredibly curious around what was happening outside of my world and my upbringing, which is something that is one of those key lessons and strategies that I would say pulls right through and has been a key component of my tech career, and is certainly something that I would recommend to people as one of those strategies, which is stay curious. If you are excited to learn about different things, if you're excited to know and understand, and always be thinking about how you can build and create, tech is a great place for that. But a deep level and sense of curiosity helps power that as well. And it helps then in all your interactions with people, because fundamentally when you connect, people understand that you want to learn. And when you want to learn and you communicate that effectively to others, people want to help you in general. And that is something that I have found through my career that has been very successful. So that is definitely, if we're going to make a list today of some of these strategies, that's one that I have. And you hear many times from people saying, be curious. It means different things for different people. But certainly for me, this is, I'm learning every day. Every day I work, every day I live, I'm learning something I didn't know before. And I embrace all of that. And I love not knowing things, and I love finding out, because that, of course, helps enhance and build your knowledge base so much more. But coming back to my story, and I had talked about a change in my career pretty early in my career. I went to Vancouver, thought I'd have a year of adventure, and then I'd go back to Ireland and pick up the job I was in. But actually, I started into tech, and I met, when I was in Vancouver, I met some wonderful people, and I was working for a senior female leader who was CIO of the company I was with. It was a software company, and she was absolutely so encouraging and so wonderful to work with, because she was teaching me about how to run a business and how business operates in the tech world, which is very different. I mean, every function or facet of life, be it a medical or biotech or tech or agriculture, no matter what it is, everything has a different culture around it. And they also have a different way of getting work done. And so if you can understand earlier in your career how the framing around how your career can advance and how you can build into that, that's better for you. And sometimes these learnings don't come early, they come at different points through your career. But essentially what I'm trying to say here is that every industry has a different way of working. It's got a different life around it. And so as you're starting to think about career and where you want to go, spend your time and your education, or perhaps you're in college already and you're thinking, well, how do I get into tech, for example? It's important to know that there's a different flavor and slice to everything. So not everything is binary, and not everything is this type of company or this type of company. They can be on paper, but when you go and you start working in them, you realize that there's very different cultures. And these cultures are based upon the people who work in the company, depending on where they're from. So I spent a lot of my earlier part of my tech career working for a European German-based company in North America, and that was SAP. And so what you get with a company like SAP is you get a tremendous knowledge and experience in the enterprise software world, which is basically helping all the top companies in the world run their business on, be it financials or HR or their supply chain. You want to get an Apple Watch, well, the Apple Watch has to be made. The Apple Watch has to be ordered. That you have to buy the Apple Watch. You've got to collect the Apple Watch. Every aspect of these interactions have a whole body of work and theme and people behind them. And so you have to understand how it is that the culture of the company operates, because when you understand that, then you understand how you can be effective and how it is that you can best lead, or how it is that you can best add value with your thought process and your education. And that, of course, helps you. In my experience, it helps you progress your career. And if that's what you're interested in doing, and that's fine. And for some people, they may not be wanting to do that. And that's okay too. And that's something I've learned in my career, is that not everybody has the same motivations and desires that I do. So coming back a little bit more again to my story. So what would be the lesson around that? It's like, it's learning, these growth journeys and learning all take on different bodies and worlds of their own, and how you interact and engage with that. Some, really says a lot about who it is that you are and what it is that motivates you. So for me, for someone who, I emigrated to Canada, and at some point my company transferred me over to the US because I always wanted to come and work in the US. I have been motivated to a great degree by career progression. I love to learn and to take on more responsibility and accountability. I have also been motivated greatly by finance. So I've always had a desire from a young age to be independent, financially independently wealthy, and to have my own money to do the type of things I want to do it and with it and spend it in the type of ways that I want to spend. And again, for me, that's different For other people, everybody has their own likes and desires around that. But I like to spend my money on my family. I like to spend my money on building experiences. I like to spend money on growing wealth from my family and from myself. And I like to spend money in nonprofit areas as well that I firmly believe are doing a great job in the world. And I want to be able to spend dollars there. And I want to spend dollars on my family. So in order to do this, you also have to, most cases in my experience and people I talk and work with, you have to have a career around that helps you to, basically fund the bank of your world and what you want to do. And so tech is something that has helped me do that and has helped inspire and motivate me, because when you get into the tech world, like any other industry, as you start to progress yourself, you're learning about how it is that positions are graded and what the compensation around each of these types of positions are. And part of what I've always done is deconstruct from that what it is that I can learn that helps me progress and navigate conversations in my career. So I felt like I got a little bit distracted when we wandered into a few different places there in my storytelling, but to start to get into some tips and our strategies, as we would call them, let me start to close on a few things. But first, before I do that, are there any questions? And if you have questions, please put them into the chat or just ask me. And especially if you're not super comfortable asking questions in a forum, please be comfortable to do that today. I mean, part of one of my strategies is around doing the things that make you uncomfortable. And so hearing your voice and asking questions in open forums is sometimes challenging for folks. So please feel very comfortable to ask me anything. Ask me what my favorite food was. I don't care, but ask the question if you want to ask the question. So I'll spend just a moment for that while I just run and grab something. So give me a second. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat, or if you want to ask them, just start getting ready to ask. All right, now I took care of the door. Okay, that's great. So let's see if there's was there any questions in the chat?
So I don't think there's any questions right now, but I myself have a question on just like practices. So what do you think are like the best practices when it comes to like to find like a good mentor or like to have good professional growth?
Yeah, excellent. I love that, Sneha. Thank you. Let's start talking about it. So let's hit off with mentorship, because I started to touch on this about how I worked in the early in my career. I was so fortunate to work with a fabulous person who had a growth mindset and saw that their role as a leader was also to grow other people and to help them develop their skills. Now, what I have seen through my tech career is that not everybody wants to do that, but they say they'll do that. So you have to be very mindful of these things. And then the type of guidance and mentorship that you need at different stages will be different at different stages of your career. And so it's very important to understand these things so that when you start to engage with people or look for mentorship, there's a few different things you can do for strategies. Number one is, if there's somebody that you're working with, if there's a professor or there's somebody that you know in your community who comes across to you as being very good at what they do, and they have like that personality where you feel like you can engage and you can start to talk to them about areas of your career that you're interested in. If there's somebody in your family, my recommendation would be start asking the questions and start to engage, even if it's a small question of like, hey, what's your day like? Like, what do you do in your role? Like, what is a director at Intel doing business development for new software products, driving AI? Now, that's a huge question, because that could take me 3 hours to answer in some ways, because there's so much that I do in my role and work, but I'll start to engage. And so some part of this is you're identifying people, then depending on the responses that they give you, you can start to see what level of engagement or knowledge can you get from people. Now, remember, not every mentor is going to work for you, and not every mentor we put a lot of emphasis into mentors, like it's a built-in box and you buy it and then it's supposed to do all these things. I have found through my career that isn't how it works. How it works are things like you also need to cultivate a relationship and start to understand how it is, where are people thinking or what are they doing that's going to help you. And then when you start to engage as well, you have to actually think about what you want to ask people, and that's important. And so that helps you in targeting people that you would want to talk to and engage with, and then the questions that you want to ask. And you can do this in many different ways. You know, you can see, and I'll use this from the professional perspective, like LinkedIn has like, oh my gosh, there's so much content posted there all the time. And you see snapshots of people talking, or you hear something that they've said at a conference. You can always reach out to that person to ask them more about what they talked about because you're curious. And a lot of people are okay with like a 10-minute call to talk about blah, 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 but you have to be very respectful of their time. And then you also have to be very clear around the 1-2 questions you might want to ask. Now, I say all of this because it's part of the phase of understanding who it is that you can work with, or how it is that you can start to build people in your life that can help you answer difficult questions or help navigate you. It doesn't get you to a mentor. And a lot of people, some people classify themselves as mentors and some people don't. Like I typically don't classify myself as a mentor, but I talk to tons of people and I have interns on my team. And in my role, I do mentor them because I give them guidance and I start to see the areas that their skill sets are, like where they're good. And then I help to nurture that, because that's one, it's what I want to do, because I love to see the next generation of folks that are coming into our world who are going to solve very significant problems that are going to keep me healthy and keep our world healthy. We got to help learn from each other. So that's important in my role. And then the second part too is like, it's part of my job. And part of my job is to mentor others and to guide and help train and help educate in that. So to identify mentors, what I'm saying initially, early in your career, start to look for people that you can engage with and that you feel like you have a connection, that you can ask questions, and they can range from everything and anything. I typically find mentorship is around career progression. It's around people dynamics, like, hey, I have this difficult situation at work. Can you help me? You might have a formal mentor, but you can have a bunch of people that you can reach out to for different things. For me personally, I have a wide group of mentors and I reach out to them for different things. So earlier this week, for example, I met with one of my mentors and we had lunch and we talked about a very, deep business challenge that I am trying to address. And he has a ton of experience because he's built and run a business. So we were able to talk to specifics about that. I have another mentor who I talk to who is excellent at coaching people. And I talk to her about some of the people dynamics that I have. So you can see here, you build up different areas. Like if you expect your mentor to have everything in life and know all of that, that's a very high expectation to have of somebody else. And so I typically find that can disappoint you. So you start to understand what skill sets people have that can help you at different stages of your career for what it is that you want to learn. So Shneha, with a lot of these questions, there's never actually a direct answer and a plan, but there's a way and a methodology around learning so that you can build it in for yourself, because for everybody it's different. And I typically am not one of those people that like to be a checkbox just to be a checkbox. If I am going to commit to be a mentor to somebody, I'm actually going to commit to do that. So I will give the time and I will listen and learn, and I will look to support that person in the areas that they need my help the most. And then I mightn't talk to them for a couple of years. And then they might tap me again and say, hey, I did this, I went off and I learned a bunch of stuff. Now I'm trying to navigate into X part of my career. Can I talk to you again about this? So yeah, you can. So it's a journey and people come in and out at different stages. Shania, is that helpful?
Oh no, that is definitely helpful. I think that actually led to some more questions to be asked as well. Would you like me to ask the questions, or like would you want to continue your
Oh, if yeah, no, you can definitely go. Yeah, ask the questions. I've just checked the chat and I don't see anything there, but if you have questions, please ask them.
Oh, you can check the Q&A. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, you know what? I was in the chat. There you go.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
So,
that's interesting. Yeah, sorry. I see this now.
yeah, I can read the first one. It says, does choosing a male mentor versus female mentor make a difference in your career growth?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question and just got goosebumps. I find I have mentors of male mentors and female mentors. So my first answer to this would be it depends. And it depends what you want to know and what you want to do. I find I go to different people for different things, and be they male or female, it also depends. So in this example that I used of the business scenario and that particular mentor I asked for business pieces is they have worked in tech industries at a very, like, they've built billion-dollar businesses, and typically I find in the environment I am in, I actually do work with a lot more men than I do with women. And I find talking to him, I'm getting a male perspective of the business. Now, whether this is right, wrong, and different, it helps me. I get a male perspective because, quite frankly, a lot of the people I work with are male, and a lot of the leaders I work with are male. So it's good for me to dial into that. Now, the better part then about me is that I bring my perspective into that too. So I hold my own ground within it because I'm trying to figure out how to navigate like something to something to something. So in that scenario for me, I have chosen a mentor that I feel like I can get a lot more from because of their experience being a male, driving a billion-dollar business, and then knowing the type of dynamic I'm in that can help me navigate with certain different types of strategies. So that helps. Now, I have female mentors who are also amazing at running businesses. And I go and I ask them about different aspects of things, especially if I'm looking for something from like a CEO perspective, because I find a lot of females I work with who are owners and run their businesses. Number one, they're exceptionally talented and they have just such great experience that also helps me and mine. So my point here is that I wouldn't choose one because I think this is some part of what it's funneling into. Do you just have one mentor? I have multiple different mentors, and they are of various genders, and they are of very different orientations and backgrounds in life. And I love that because for me, I want to hear lots of different, I want to hear diversity of thought. I want to hear diversity of experience. I don't want to hear just one view. And that again is part of what's shaped me and made me successful because in tech, especially, you work with people from all different backgrounds and cultures. And if you're not dialing into how people are culturally wired at times and how some people they may be living in the US like me, but have been brought up in a very different environment, in a different geography, in a different landscape, in a different type of classroom, and a different type of learning techniques. If you're not pulling in and understanding that better, or working with people in tech, especially because teams are so diverse, it is definitely has benefited my career to be very open to different types and ways of thinking. Now, I didn't always have that, and I certainly didn't have it early in my tech career. It's something that I have learned and grown and accustomed with over the years of working. And you know, I'm talking to you as somebody who I was just counting earlier before the call. I've probably like been in tech over 18 years. So and I feel like I'm aging myself by saying that, and yet I feel so young in tech because I'm learning so much all the time. And I work with a lot of very senior people. But I will say that over my years of working, I've really started to understand to much greater level how this piece around diversity of thought and backgrounds and how that matters. And so that really leads into that first question of my answer to this would be choose multiple different types of mentors. And it doesn't have to be a lot of people, like you're talking about 1, 2, 3 people. And it can be family members, or it can be somebody in your neighborhood, or it could be somebody in your community if you're a part of an organization, and try to tap into something that works for you in your conversations with them that helps you. So that's one. And then The second one here I see is, should we choose a mentor related to your field? And again, the answer here is it depends, because it depends what you want to do. And again, coming back to that part of not everything is binary. There, you can learn a lot from having diversity of thoughts. So I would recommend here in this case that you do choose a mentor related in your field, especially as a minimum of one mentor. Definitely one mentor you should have in your field. Absolutely 100%. Now that could be your field, could be your industry. So it could be tech, or it could be your function in tech. So my function in tech is sales and business development and marketing. And so I absolutely have mentors who are amazing at sales, business development, and marketing, because these are 3 different functions and they're all in tech. And some of them are in the company I work in now, and some of them are from previous companies that I've worked in. So yes, you should definitely choose a mentor related to your field. You should also choose a mentor not related to your field. So if you're interested in tech, but you have someone in your life who is, you know, an amazing surgeon or doctor or somebody in medical, a fabulous nurse, talk to them, because they're talking with people all the time, and everybody has different strategies around how it is that they work and engage with people. And fundamentally, no matter what you do in this world, everything has a people component to it. So the more you can understand how working with people helps you learn and grow more in your career, it would also help you add more value into whatever it is that you're looking to do. So these are 2 great Q&As that I see here. Shneha, do you have any others? Because I see I have 4 minutes left, and I could do a couple of top, like I actually have 8 strategies, a lot of which we've talked about.
Yeah, I think you can just, give a nice final conclusion statement.
Yeah, so I will do that. So the first thing is build as much as you can on internships and experience. And so seek those out. If you're in college, you have like a lot of fairs right around from the different universities. Seek out internships, get experience, get as much experience as you can get. And this is all helps. Yes, come up here. So I have my little girl has joined, so you can just watch and let mommy keep talking, okay, please? Mentorships we've talked about. And so people are amazing. Build and develop your relationships. That's so important. Don't be a one-hit wonder. Think about how you can engage with people over time, and not just like, anyway, we won't go in. Soft skills, communicating and connecting. So things like how you communicate, how you storytell, how you present, all of these are skills that you need to develop in your career. The earlier you can get in your career to communicating to broader group. Yes, 1 second, please, my love. Yeah, 1 second. And here we are empowering the next generation of female leaders on my lap. So here you go, my love. Now off you go. Go talk to daddy, please. There you go. So communication is very important in how you present and communicate your message. Start working on that. If you have challenges in this area, a lot of people tell me they don't like speaking in groups and the whole lot. What I would say is just keep working on it. Ask that first question, stand up in that audience, put up your hand, just ask, feel the fear, do it anyway, and then start to build on that. So do something every day to challenge the things that put you out of your comfort zone the most.